Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare and conquer your upcoming hike, trek or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. Alright, hello guys. Today we are talking through the subject of how fatigue makes cowards of us all, and how fatigue is one of the single most controllable factors which can be the difference between having a great time on the trail and an absolute stress-filled, anxious experience. Now, I have no idea, I cannot remember for the life of me whether I've covered this subject before, this particular subject on this podcast. Sometimes I struggle remembering what we've talked about, but even if I have talked about this already, it is such a relevant topic, and it really is something super important to learn. Now, this was inspired from a couple of days ago being in the surf, another surf-inspired podcast. And if you haven't listened to the previous ones, over the last couple of months during the summer in Australia, I haven't been doing a huge amount of hiking. I've been doing a bit, but not really a huge amount. But I've been really rediscovering my love for bodyboarding, particularly in this summer heat. Back when I was a teenager, I absolutely used to live for this sport. I loved it. I lived for it. We honestly used to pride ourselves that we could surf faster, heavier, and crazier waves than normal surfers. We thought we were something special. And pretty much everything in my life, back when I was a teenager, was geared towards this. Now, these days, I'm definitely not as hardcore, but I have been really having a good amount of fun, getting out in the surf, floating around in nature, challenging myself to learn, adapt, and get better at these particular skills that I haven't practiced in a long time. And I'm really having a good time. But there's one thing that I notice makes a massive difference to my experience in the surf. And that is fatigue. And in particular, when I've been thrown around by waves, when I've had a tough paddle out, when I've sort of, get myself in a stage where I'm fatigued, I'm huffing and puffing, my legs are jelly, or whatever it is, and I know I'm feeling tired, I'm very aware that my courage and my determination really sink down to rock bottom. And instead of being in that position where I'm happy to chase every wave that comes my way, really push it, go for it, have a great time and really try to make the most out of every minute that I'm in there, when I'm in that fatigued state, all I want to do is just sit out the back behind the waves, catch my breath and recover. And even when a wave comes up right in front of me that looks like amazing, when I'm in that mindset, I always second guess myself. I get scared and I think, man, that could go wrong or something like that. And on the other side of things, when I'm feeling fresh and I'm not huffing and puffing, I'm not jelly-legged, if that exact same wave comes towards me, I'm ready to go. And I have a great time. And the amount of great waves in my surfing recently that I've missed because of this, it is a bit disheartening. And this exact same principle really does carry over onto the trail as well. And the great quote, which I mentioned earlier, is fatigue makes cowards of us all. I can't remember who quoted that, but it's such a powerful thing. And when you're fatigued on the trail, you are absolutely less likely to challenge yourself. You're less likely to feel confident. And in all, you're less likely to be having fun. So for example, if you're on a long descent and your legs are getting tired and they're getting jelly-legged and they're getting shaky, more than likely, in your head, you're going to be worried, you're going to be stressed about slipping, falling, or rolling an ankle. Or at least I know I'm exactly the same. We've all been in that mindset before, and it isn't fun. But on the same descent, if you're doing it when you're fresh and you're not tired, you might not have a care in the world. You might be looking around, looking at the scenery, chatting with your friend, having a really good time, and it might be completely different. The same thing applies for any other challenging section on the trail. For river crossings, for rock hopping. This is particularly relevant for anyone who has a fear of heights or something like that. And if you're fatigued and you're coming up to something that you're aware that you struggle with mentally, more than likely it isn't going to go well. But if you come into it fresh, well, you might have a solid chance. And if you're fatigued, all in all, your courage and your determination is going to go down and is much much more likely that you're not going to be having a good time in whatever situation you are. Another typical one with this is, all this extra side trips or side challenges that do go on trails. And if you're fatigued, the last thing in the world you're going to want to do is go climb up this massive peak or whatever to add extra to the adventure. It's just going to suck out the enjoyment of that. But if you're fresh, well, it's a different story. And in all honesty, being in this fatigue state where we're not having a good time, it's just not what we want to do. But the good news around all this is fatigue is a very, very, very controllable factor for most hikers. Now, for most hikers, you can't control the weather. You can't control, what the trail is going to give you, like to a certain extent. You can't control a lot of things when it comes to hiking. But your fatigue levels and your exhaustion levels and your energy levels, they're very, very controllable. And if you do the right training and the right prep before your adventures, you really can dramatically reduce the incidence of fatigue on the trail, keep your comfort and energy levels high, and making a massive difference to your enjoyment. Now, I know I'm probably preaching to the converted here. If you are listening to this podcast, you're probably pretty aware that your training can make a difference. But if you think about certain challenges that you encounter on the trail, if you think about experiences you've had where you just haven't performed as well as you can, fatigue's gotten in the way, your mindset wasn't right, maybe next time the training will make a difference. Maybe if you have something that's defeated you in the past, maybe you can give it a go again. But this time, go into it where you're prepared. You won't be exhausted and you can approach it in a different way or whatever it may be. But it's a really, really, really relevant point to keep top of your mind. And if you are ever stepping up your hiking and doing something like climbing, doing something like canyoning, abseiling, mountaineering, alpinism, or whatever it is, where you've got to do technical and risky things, fatigue gets even more of a danger. So keep that in your mind. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. Avoid fatigue as much as you can, and you'll significantly improve your courage, your determination, and your enjoyment on the trail. So some food for thought there, guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye.